Hello viewers, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be provisioning a Kubernetes cluster using KVM based virtual machines, Linux kernel based virtual machines. If you're using my Vagrant environment to bring up your cluster, you already know that I used VirtualBox in my Vagrant environment, Vagrant file, but I personally use KVM based virtual machines. So if you've got a Linux host machine, then you can use kernel based virtual machines. I always use KVM based virtual machines, but in my Vagrant file, in my Github repository, I didn't include the code for KVM based virtual machines because I know most of you guys are using VirtualBox and it's cross-platform, so you can run Vagrant up in your Windows machine, in your Mac operating system, and so on. So that's why I didn't want to introduce you to KVM. But I recently merged a pull request from one of the viewers. So if I show my Github repository, so in Vagrant provisioning, Vagrant file. So this was a merge from a recent pull request by one of the viewers, so you could see the difference here. So the addition is just this libvirt provider to the master block and to the worker block as well. So you could have multiple provider blocks in your Vagrant file, so depending on what you want to use, whether VirtualBox or libvirt, and depending on what you use, one of these code blocks will get executed. All right, so as of now, if you just do Vagrant up with this Vagrant file, because VirtualBox is the default provider when you're running Vagrant, this code block will get executed. VM provider is VirtualBox. But if you want to use KVM, then you need to pass in an option to Vagrant up command so that it uses this libvirt based provider. The prerequisite is you need to have your KVM QEMU libvirt installed on your machines. There are lots of articles in the internet to get that set up. So I've got my KVM libvirt environment set up. So at the moment I don't have any virtual machines. If I show you the virtual machine manager, similar to VirtualBox UI, so I don't have any virtual machines at the moment. And you also need, because I'm using Vagrant to bring up these KVM based virtual machines, I also need a plugin, so which is Vagrant plugin list. And if I show you that, you need to have Vagrant libvirt plugin installed, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so let me git clone my Kubernetes repository and then we will bring up this Vagrant environment. Okay, so the idea is we've got both VirtualBox and libvirt provider block in the Vagrant file. So if I just do Vagrant up, it's going to bring up all the VirtualBox virtual machines. But if I want to use KVM, I pass in the option -- provider equals libvirt. If you're always going to be using libvirt and not VirtualBox, you don't want to run this option every time you do Vagrant up. Instead, you can set this up as an environment variable. So basically in your bash, zsh, or depending on what shell you use, you just export this variable called, I think it's Vagrant _default provider equals libvirt. So if you do that, and then you can just do Vagrant up and it will provision your KVM based virtual machine, so you don't have to type in that -- provider libvirt to every Vagrant up command. Or you can even update your Vagrant file and sorry, not in here. So basically, if you only want to use libvirt KVM based virtual machines just for this particular Vagrant environment, it makes sense to update it in this particular Vagrant file. All right, so it's going to be env and then Vagrant _default provider equals libvirt. Yeah, that's all you need, and then you can just do Vagrant up command. But I haven't included this in my Vagrant file because I know you guys are using VirtualBox. All right, so let's do Vagrant up -- provider libvirt. I'm gonna pause the video and come back when it's done. All right, the command completed and we should have our Kubernetes cluster up and running. And back in the virtual machine manager, you can see the 3 KVM based virtual machines up and running. And I can also do sudo virtualist and you can see those 3 virtual machines running fine. And the next thing I'm gonna do is make a directory .kube under my home directory, and then copy etc kubernetes admin.conf file from the master node to .kube config file. Okay, so the password is as usual kube admin. Okay, that's done. kubectl cluster info, there we go. So that's our cluster. kubectl version -- short 1.19.2 kubectl git node. So we've got one master node and two worker nodes. All of them are healthy. Okay, let me tear this down. Vagrant destroy -f, and in the background you will see all these virtual machines are getting deleted. Okay, so that's all I think I planned for this video, but meanwhile let me also show you the actual person who it's Jumpo Joy who created this pull request, which I merged. And if I go to my commit history, I merged this pull request last week from this Jumpo Joy, and he's the one. All credit goes to him. So the code that was added was this libvirt code block, as I've shown you before. Alright, that's all I wanted to show you, and thank you for your time watching this video. I will see you all in my next video. Until then, keep learning and keep on learning. Bye bye.